Hi everybody, Alex Deploy here from Expert Forex, and in today's video we're going to be looking at one of the most important lessons I ever learned about robot and indicator settings. And I was very lucky that I learned this lesson extremely early in my career. I think I was in my second or third month when the penny dropped about the truth about robot and indicator settings, which 80 to 90% of Forex traders conveniently ignore, or they don't even realize the problem. So as I mentioned early in my career, Dr. Alexander Elder's book, Trading for a Living, was my trading Bible, for want of a better word. I read this book over and over again, and if you read it, you'll find that every single sentence is a success affirmation. You could put it on your wall and live by it in terms of trading. So this book was really very inspirational for me and also guided me into what is needed to be a trading success. And as you can see, they didn't only focus on Forex tactics, but they focused on the other major areas like psychology and money management. You cannot be a trading success if you don't have the right psychology and the right money management approach. So anyway, from this book is what I learned about indicator settings and later on EA settings. And here it is. The single most important lesson that I personally learned is make the indicator give you the signals that you want to see. In other words, the indicator is your slave. You are the master. You make it do what you want it to do. You don't make it do what somebody else wants it to do. Somebody else cannot instruct your slave what to do. You are the master of that slave. So that is one of the biggest lessons I've learned, and it might not make sense to you right now, but it will become clearer as I go along. And why this made a lot of sense to me is that I soon realized every indicator setting can differ for every currency, for every time frame, for every broker for that matter, because they all have different profiles and personalities. So why is that an issue? It's a major issue because the most asked question I ever get, and our support departments ever get, is what is the setting that I must use, or what setting did you use for? And this applies to indicators and EAs. And it is the most mindless question that people ask, and it is almost impossible to answer that question, because if you give us a straight answer, you will be leading them down the garden path, because of the principle that one setting can never apply to all currencies, to all time frames, to all broker accounts. It simply cannot do that. So what you are giving them is totally useless information. So what is the answer? So as I said, whatever answer you give will be wrong because you don't know how they're going to use it. If you say the setting for the RSI is 4 and they go and use it for some silly time frame and some silly currency, it will not work for them, or even in a silly time of day. So you have to adapt the settings to the circumstances that you're going to be using them. You cannot use other people's settings even on an EA basis. Now, some of you might have seen the slide before. We've got 3 groups of people that we support. We have the little babies that don't know anything. They need to be fed and their nappies need to be changed, and they really don't know anything. And the only way that they can get out of that is to become more responsible for their actions and learn and get out of that particular phase. But many people stay in that particular mode. Then we have the rebellious teenager that just says, look, I'm not interested in anything. I don't want to learn anything about Forex trading. Just give me the settings. And by the way, if those settings don't work, I will blame you. So you have those kind of people out there. And then we have the responsible adult who basically says, okay, let me understand what's going on with this indicator or what's going on with this EA. Let me see the big picture. I'm willing to put in some effort to understand what's going on. I am prepared to take responsibility for my own trading actions. So we have these three groups to deal with, and unfortunately a lot of them fall in the baby phase and a lot of them fall in the rebellious teenager, and the results that those people get are obviously in line with their trading philosophy. So the correct question that should be asked is, how did you determine the settings that you use? As simple as that, because then we could actually explain to them how we go about it. And that in fact is what I'm going to be trying to do in this short video that I've planned, and just to give you a taste of the type of things that you need to do. So what you have to do is you have to tune your indicator or Forex robot to give you the answers you want. You have to tell your slave, hey, I want these kind of answers. I want these kind of results. Now, granted, this takes trading experience, trading knowledge, and all that type of thing. And I'm not going to make an excuse for it. It does. There is no shortcut to success in Forex trading. You have to have Forex trading knowledge and experience. So if you're buying an EA off the shelf and you're plugging in somebody else's settings, you will get what you paid for. So there's no shortcut. You need to know how the market works, how it reacts, how the price action happens, how indicators respond to the price action. You have to know all that thing, those kind of things, so that you can tune your indicator into the market. And you can't do it just for one currency. You have to tune the indicator for all the different currencies you're using and all the different EAs that you use. So here's the small example that I got from Dr. Alexander Elder. What he said the envelope system is one of the top systems that banks and his clients use. And basically it's a very simple system. You basically, there's an envelope indicator on virtually every single platform that you can think of, and you then take that indicator and you forget about settings, because there are no fixed settings for that indicator. What you do is you put it on the chart and then you tune it. In other words, you change the settings so that in this particular case 95% or even higher percent of the price action happens inside of the envelope, and only 2 to 5% of the price the price goes outside of the envelope. So as you can see on this chart, it's just touching there, it's just touching there, it's just going out there, just going out there, going out there, going out there, just going out. That's what you want. You want to tune the indicator so that it's just touching, that when the price just touches the outside barrier of the envelope, then you trade the other way. So you would sell there and you'd buy there, and you'd sell there and you'd buy there, and sell and buy there and sell there, and so on. So he introduced me to this concept of tuning your indicator to the market. Now here's another example, and here we've got another envelope, and there it's tuned to just catch the touches of the price on the envelope, and there it went over quite a bit. It missed at the top there, it still went into a sell there, went into a buy there, sell there, buy there. So it's not perfect, but that's the concept that is used. Now the thing here, the concept here is that this is the same currency. It's exactly the same currency. It's just a slightly different time frame. And look at the differences in the settings. The envelope basically depends on the period that you're using and the deviation setting that you use. And here it's a 12 periods with a 0.6 deviation. Here we got an 8 period with a 0.1 deviation. Big differences, big differences when you start playing around with this indicator. But it shows you how you need to tune the indicator to tell you what you want. Now, if we had gone to another currency, the settings would be completely different. If you went to another time frame within that other currency, you'd also find complete. So you might end up with unique settings for every currency, for every time frame, And those settings will change because the market and the nature of the market changes. Suddenly a currency becomes a trending currency and sideways currency. So those settings need to be updated all the time. And that is what people don't appreciate when they ask a question, what settings you use, and I tell them what settings are. I know they're going to fail, but I cannot spend hours explaining this basic concept. And unfortunately, this is baggage that people have. People, the first thing they have when they start trading, they have baggage that says settings will work for any time frame, any currency, any EA. If somebody gives me the settings for an EA, I will be successful. That's the kind of baggage that people have, and you cannot get rid of that kind of baggage. Once they've got it, it sticks, and you really have to work hard to get rid of old baggage. It's much easier to teach people with no experience whatsoever. In fact, Barry Thornton only recruits people with no trading experience at all to trade his systems. So all right, so you're starting to get an idea of what I'm talking about, where I'm saying every setting is unique, be it an indicator setting or an EA setting. I'll just show you another example of how I go about finding settings. It's a little simple example, but it just shows you the concept. Okay, so now on the screen I have the pound CAD. It's the 4-hour pound CAD, and I'm looking at it, and because it's a nicely trending currency, if you look at this trend, it was 860 pips, so it trends quite a lot. You've got 860, almost 400 there, 400 there. So it's the type of currency that you really want to catch those trends in. And I've just put a very simple moving average on it. It's a moving average of 4. There's a setting. People ask what setting. I say, 4. And you can see that setting absolutely produces junk, because when you're using moving averages, when the price is above the moving average, you buy, and when it's below the moving average, you sell. And as you can see, in certain cases, if you were to do something there, you would buy there, and then you'd sell there, and then you'd buy again. So you would get whipsawed and whipsawed all over the show if you were to use those settings. So what I then do is I start experimenting, and that's another thing people don't seem to know about experimenting. There is nothing scary about experimenting. You cannot hurt anything. You can't lose money by experimenting. So please experiment. So then I say, all right, look, how can we stop these whipsaws that are happening all over? The moving average is too close to the actual price action. So then I start moving it away. So we go, all right, so to move it away, you've got to shift it. So I'm going to just shift it by 6 and see what happens. And then we go like that. Okay, so now you can see all those whipsaws that were happening all over the show are now, but there are still some there. So still not that great. But this is a nice trend that it caught, and a bit of a whipsaw there and all that type of thing. So let's do it a bit more. So let's try 6 over there. So you start experimenting and seeing how many whipsaws you can avoid and how many you can eliminate completely, and that type of thing. So you start playing around with the indicator, and you can see here some really nice trends that get, and clean ones, because that's a clean one. It goes out, you go into a sell, that's a clean one. There's a bit of a whipsaw, very small, and you go into your sell, and then you're into your buy. So, and there's a nice long buy, and there's a nice long buy, and there's a nice one, and there's a nice long sell. So that particular setting is a lot better than what we started with. But the only way to do that is to experiment like I have now, and play around with the indicators. You can then start really going mad, and you can say, all right, well, let's make that 21. And then you see what that means, and look how much cleaner that is. You catch that hole, you miss that whipsaw that we've got there, and all right, so I go over there, I go there, yeah, that's a lot cleaner. Look how much cleaner that is. It catches and look at that trend that I caught there. So you start playing around and experimenting, and then what happens is you own the settings. It's your settings. It's not ABC settings or the guy you bought the EA from settings. It is your settings, because you can visually see that these settings are producing the results that you want to see. Okay, so look, I'm quite passionate about this because I can't believe how many people don't realize this basic and simple thing and don't experiment and play around. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to see that the settings I've just put on the chart there are better than the ones we started out with, which just created whipsaws left, right, and center, and so on. So here's a method that you can use. You just put the indicator that you want, and you can even put the EA that you want on the screen. Now, I'll show you how to do the EA. All right, so I've put the make money on here. I'm trading the pound yen. I'm trading the every tick basis. I'm only trading less than 3 weeks period because I just want to. You see, I just want to understand how the EA works and what kind of signals it's giving, and all. That's what I want to see. So I don't need to backtest a year. I just want to see how the indicator works. So I'm doing it on the 1 minute using half a pip because that's the yen, and okay, and then the trick here is you use visual mode. Visual mode will show you the EA trading. That is the trick. So you click on visual mode and you then say, all right, start. I want to see how this EA trades. So now I've got the make money on there. It's trading the pound yen, and here it goes. So this is a little bit of a nuisance, so I'll just push it out the way. And there it's trading away. It's trading the 4-hour chart on a tick basis. That's why the price is jumping around like crazy. Oh, there it's entered 2 buys. We'll see later on how you can see why it entered those buys, but there it's entered 2 buys, and you think, all right, is that good? Is it? Oh, look how high up it entered those buys. Oh, and there those 2 buys got cashed in. So there's a nice profitable situation, and these guys are still open. It's not quite dangerous if they come down here. They could turn into losses. So you start thinking, oh, should I put a following stop in here, or should I put a break-even stop, or what should I have done to protect those 4 open deals? And you can see there they all went negative at some stage there. So it's they're quite a tricky ones. You need to decide how you want to manage them. And then thank goodness we didn't interfere because all 4 of them went nicely positive, and that's how the make money trades. But let's have a look. Let's just leave it to trade a little bit longer. It's going to trade for about less than 3 weeks. So you can see it's already gone. It's already gone for 1 week, and let's just let it trade and see what it does. Now, there's going to be a trick at the end of this, so don't worry. I'll show you. You can put the indicators on at this point. You can put the indicators on and see why that entry was made, and all those kind of things. So there it's entered another couple of buys, but they got stopped out. You can see they got stopped out. The stops are actually very small. Look at that. So you start thinking, whoa, are the stops too small? If you look at how small the stops are and how big the targets are, maybe there's an imbalance between stops and targets. Maybe I should make the stops bigger, or maybe they should even be smaller. So anyway, so we've got a couple of wins here, and I've got 2 losses there, and let's see how it goes. And there it's entered another couple of buys. Again, the stops they appear to be too small compared to the targets, but there we've got our buys, and away it's going. See, we've got a couple of days. Another 2 buys entered there. Another buy entered there because the entry conditions have been complied with. And there one gets topped up. There gets one gets topped up. And so on. So at this point you start saying, should I have been using following stops? Should I have been using break-even stops? What would have prevented these losses? You know, you start thinking on those particular lines. Should I have a tighter control over the transactions? Now remember, these 2 are open, so there we are. Now notice what just happened. We've reached the end of the test. And at the end of the test, the strategy tester adds the indicators that give the signal. So why did we enter those buys? Oh, we entered those buys because the ADX was high and the 2 moving averages were pointing in the same direction. Same thing there, the ADX was high and the 2 moving averages were pointing in the same direction, and so on. And why did we enter those ones? The same thing. It was a high. It wasn't as high as I would have liked. So we go and have a look at what the settings are. Not bad, not bad. Oh, 22 is very low for the ADX. So we put 22 in. At the moment, this thing hasn't got the 22 in. So I'll go and put it in. And I'll make it a nice thick color. I'll put it in, and there's the 22 line. So I reckon, you know, what I would do in this particular case, I would move it up a little bit. I would rather make it closer to 35, so that it only enters deals when the ADX is a little bit higher. So those were entered into when the ADX was quite low, and that's most probably why they failed. You can see these ones were a little bit higher, and those ones were a little bit higher. So you know, so what you can do, you can look at what's going on, and you can say, oh, I want to change the moving averages a little bit. You can change the following stops or the trailing stops. I want to increase the conditions under which the entries happen. You want to make it more difficult for entries like that to happen, and so on and so on. And that's how you find settings for your EAs. Quite honestly, that's the way. But you need to know what's going on. So where are the settings? Let's go and see why it hasn't taken some of the. You can see there's some conditions that were met there, and it hasn't taken it. So let's go and see why not. And we just move it up, and you can see what's happened here is we've actually told the EA to only take trades between 7 o'clock and 11 o'clock in the day. And now, is that really a good thing? Should we have increased that or decreased that? So those are the kind of questions that suddenly you start asking, because we want to do. It would have been good to be in a sell over there, because look how the sell along that trend was. Why did we miss that? The reason why we missed it was because of that time of day. Now, what if we change those settings, for instance, to different ones? Would we have had a better result? So this is the way you tune your EA, you tune your indicators by looking at the charts, looking at the actual transactions that happen, looking at the indicators that are causing the transaction, and then playing around and refining them to give yourself better entries or better results as a result of what you see on the chart. And this is, again, as I say, what the big point of this video is, that you need to tune your indicators, you need to tune your EAs to what you see as good trading decisions. Also, whenever you test using the strategy tester and you don't optimize, you just run a test and you click on open chart, it will also display this information that I've just shown you here. So, okay, we've come to the end of the video, but it's very important that you realize that the same settings cannot be used on different currencies, on different time frames, for EAs as well as indicators. In fact, the same settings cannot even be used on different brokers, and so it is complicated, and it is important that you develop the skill of tuning indicators and tuning EAs into the signals that you want them to do. When we have our week-long retreats where we take on 6 or so traders, the first thing we do is exactly this one. We teach them to tune indicators and to tune EAs to give them the results that they want. It's a different way of optimizing, but it's a much better way of optimizing because it makes sense to the trader in the end. Now, I hope I've given you something to think about, and I hope I've given you something that you may not have realized before and that you might be guilty of in terms of the way you are using indicators, EAs, and the related settings. From me, Alex Deploy, cheerio.